Hey everyone, this is Eric with Alchemy with Xerophayze, and want to bring you another video on a request. Well, it's been kind of fun. I've been reading through the comments, answering them as best I can, and taking down a list of requests. Now, I actually love this. Maybe it's just my personality, running a managed IT company, and I love getting, the service requests and being able to solve problems for people. And so I really enjoy doing this. So please, if you have other requests, I'll go through them as best I can and come up with solutions for them. Especially when it deals with stable diffusion art. I love figuring out ways to do things. And so one of those requests does touch a little bit on upscaling again. So I wanted to go a little more in depth with a couple of techniques for upscaling to really get some good results. Especially in this particular instance, what we're going to focus on first is taking a low resolution image with faces. And specifically, in this instance, what this person is requesting is he's working with creating children's book illustrations using his children's faces. And he is bringing them over, and the image that he's starting off with after he gets the faces in is around the 512 by 512 image size. So it's pretty low res and it's going to be pretty pixelated. And as an example, let me bring up a sample picture. So this is a stock photography image I pulled from offline, and it's only 640 by 427, so it's pretty small. And as you can see, when you zoom in, it's going to be pretty pixelated. Okay, obviously there's structure there. You can see the children's faces, and you want to retain that same look. You want to know that it's the same face, right? So I did some research yesterday and was able to figure out really kind of a technique that helps maintain that. And what we're also going to do is the process of walking through the whole thing and putting them in a different image, as it were, replacing the background, whatever. This was a pretty fun process to go through and figure out. And I think it'll work for what he's doing. And hopefully other people will look at this and realize that this is something they can do as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab that image. Okay, first of all, the basic setup here. Okay, so you want to be on, we're going to start off in the image to image setup here. Okay, because what we're going to be doing is taking that low res image and we're going to increase its size, pixel size, without losing any of the structure. In fact, it'll add the pixels we need, and even give not really give detail, but it does add to the picture and makes it look nicer and gives the AI something more to work with. Okay. So we want to start with this particular image because it's a realistic image. We're going to start off with a Checkpoint Dreamlike Photoreal 2.0. This is a great model. Another one you could use if you wanted to is the Realistic Vision. I think would work great too. And as we go through this, we'll end up switching over to an Inpainting model, but for right now we're just going to be upscaling, and we want to retain the colors, we want to retain the structure without any changes at this point. Okay, so we're going to bring over that image, we're going to drop it in there, we're going to interrogate the clip, just grab a description from it so we have something to work with. Okay, so here we go, a group of children standing next to each other on a stage and banner in the background. Okay, great, great description. We're just going to use my general negative prompt, okay, for this. We're not worried about any specifics with it, just generally keeping it as is. Sampling method, we're going to switch this over to the DPM++ SDE Keras. Okay. We are going to change this to what its current resolution is, so 640 by, I think it was 427. Okay. And then we're going to leave the config scale and everything else alone here, but we're going to change the denoise strength all the way down to 0. We don't want the AI to even touch it. Okay. And that's it. So all we're going to do is we're going to generate on that, give it a second to render the image. Okay. What we're checking for here is, did it change something? Which it actually did. That is strange. Okay, hold on. What did we do wrong? Because I've done this several times before and it didn't change anything. What are we doing here? Oh, I apologize. Okay, so we're starting with this. You know, we want to make sure that the original res is in there, so that as we calculate the latent upscaling resolution, I apologize for this. One more step. So we put that res in there. We're not rendering it at that resolution, obviously, because then you end up losing detail. We're going to go to the aspect ratio extension here. Great extension to have for being able to quickly switch between different resolutions. We're going to double the size of that to 1280 by 854. And then we're going to render this and we should see a much different result. Give it a second here. There we go. That looks a lot better. Okay, so as you can see, it maintained pretty much everything. I'm going to change one other thing here because I think we're going to increase the number of steps on this, because even at 0, obviously the AI is doing something with it, and I can see his nose change just a tiny bit. So we're going to see if we can't improve that with adding some steps to it, giving the AI a little more time to work with it. Oh. Did it actually do anything? Let's see. I don't know if I actually hit that. Still feel like it's doing something weird. And then, I mean, obviously we were working with a very low res image, so the AI is doing what it can. As you can see, it maintained pretty much everything. It did a really good job. And what we're going to do here is grab that image. Let me see. Yeah, let's pull this over here. So here's the image after doing the upscale, doubling the resolution. And as you can see, it does add some pixels to it, so there's more detail there. We have some detail on the face. Everything looks very similar, okay? So what we're going to do is, now that we have something more to work with, okay, we're going to move over to the Inpainting tab. And we're going to take that image, I'm going to drop it in there. Damn it. There we go. Sometimes the operating system does not do what you want it to do. Okay. And here's the thing. We've got a lot of faces in here. The only two I want to work with are these two, because they're looking at the camera. They're pretty in focus. And those are the ones we want to maintain the detail on. So what we're going to do is we're going to inpaint those faces. One of the things you want to do is you don't want to completely go outside. Like, you want to leave a little bit of an edge to the boundaries of their anatomy. I'm not doing too good of a job here, and the reason why is because there is a padding. So you have a mask blur here, and the 4, this number represents, I think, the number of pixels outside of that it tries to blur those edges. And sometimes you want more, sometimes you want less. It really depends on what you're doing. But I find that it works better if you leave a little bit of an edge, because the AI, when you use the Inpainting model, will be able to adjust for that and create what's necessary to make it, to kind of finish it up. So we're going to drop this in here. Okay, sorry, I had to step away there for a second. So once we get this set up, I'm trying to remember where I left off here. Image, got that in, masking out the face, setting up the mask blur boundary. With this particular one, we're going to leave it where it is. I may even shrink it down a little bit. But at this point now, we actually want to switch the model over to an Inpainting model, okay? And I'm actually going to go over to the A to Z Avoya RPG Artist Tools, the version 2 Inpainting model, because my goal is to get this switched over to a more of a I don't know, fantasy scene or a storybook illustration scene with people in it or characters. And in my testing, I found that this one seems to work really well for that. Okay. And what we're going to be doing, we're going to be changing everything but the faces, of course. So we're going to be in paint, not masked. Okay. We're going to do the whole image as is at 1280 by 854. Okay. Since we're changing everything but the faces, I want this up to a higher denoise strength. Okay. We're not changing anything else yet. I am going to do a couple renderings here just to see if see what we get with it. We're going to drop this down to 20 steps again. Okay. And I think I am going to switch this because we're going to be working with more digital illustration. We're not so much worried about realism. We're going to switch this over to Euler A. And let's just see what we get. Okay. Switch this over there, just double check a few things. Okay, so let's hit generate and see what we get. Working with the higher resolutions like this can cause it to slow down. Sampling steps down to 20 does help with the speed, but it does take a second for it to kind of get ramped up. We'll let it get started, and I may pause it here just for time's sake, but let's see what it does. Yeah, as you can see, I'm just kind of watching this here. This is the console window. I want to see where it's at in the progress. It is interesting. It's taking a while to kind of get this set up and get started. I noticed that yesterday. I did make a change on my command line that I think, though it takes longer to set up, speeds up the actual render, so I don't know if I'm gaining anything from it. I may switch that back here just to see if we can speed things up. Yeah, so it's going. I don't know why it's... Oh, well, I mean, obviously because I'm rendering two images here. So it is going to take a minute, and it's inpainting the whole image except for the two masked areas. So let me do this here. Usually it's never been this slow in doing this, so give me a second. Yeah, it's interesting. So this is what happens when you change things, don't keep track of what you change, and end up getting strange side effects. So yeah, I had added a command line to my startup file that I thought would help with certain things, and it was actually causing everything to slow down. But it did bring out, so I was in the process of testing it, rendering it, and I noticed that it was giving me this image here, and I forgot, oh, we got to change the prompt to something else we want. So, I mean, this is fine, you know, and I didn't let it finish. That's why it's a little blurred out. But also, I think it was the model that I had it on, the RPG Artist tool. I think that this particular model, and again, we'll probably do a video on this. This particular model, I think, works better when you have a VAE in concert with it, because the colors were a little washed out. That's why I think in another video I was doing, the colors were washed out. So what we're going to do is switch over to Rev Animate. I think that was the original model I was working with. We're going to use the Inpainting version of it. We're going to change the description here. We're going to say boy and girl walking through neighborhood on a sunny day. Story, children's storybook illustration. Okay, I'm just going to do a basic thing like that because it's going to change the entire background. We are leaving it at 2 on the batch size because I want to see a couple different ones. We're going to leave it on Euler A. 20 sampling steps. So let's go ahead and generate that, and we should see a difference in the speed, like how quickly it comes up and starts rendering it. and then it should change the entire background. There we go. Much faster. I love it. Excuse me. I was using a command line -- no half. And what that's for, I think, is when working with either models or something that requires either lower VRAM or half the bit depth that you would normally work with. So what we got here is the faces are the same. It looks like we got a little bit of make-believe edge of the face here, which we can fix later. This one turned out great. I like that one. And then we got some other kids walking around in the background. We could fix that face. Overall, I like that scene. That one's pretty good too. The other kids are walking away. They're walking forward, hand in hand, kind of brother and sister thing. I really like that. Very fun looking. You'll notice that in images like this, AI, as you work with AI, you get to understand its nuances. When you work with a wide image like this, I think we're doing obviously the wide format, 1280 by 854. This is not the normal resolution that the AI works with, and so you do tend to get some little nuances with it. So you notice there's two streets here, because they're in the center. It causes the AI. It actually causes the AI to divide the image. It'll actually it does this two-street thing. I don't know if you've ever rendered like a city street scene in a wide format. It'll create these two different streets that kind of go off to the side with some sort of building in the center. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It looks good. So we have the faces there. We're gonna actually do one thing here. I'm gonna increase the mask blur. Let me think here. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let's just increase this to, I don't know. I want to see what it does. We'll increase it to 12. See what it comes up with. I want to see what it does with the edge of the face, because it should incorporate more of the surrounding area around the face and blend it in hopefully a little bit better. It looks like we got a friend here. So it looks like it did. Blend it a little bit better. We don't have that weird edge along here. She still looks okay. That one's really good. That one's not bad. And this edge right here we could actually fix a little bit better. But as you can see, it maintains their faces. I'm not using ControlNet with this at all. The AI is pretty intuitive when it comes to understanding, hey, there's a face here, and obviously because we're using original, it's looking at this and seeing that there's a body there, and it's like you're giving the AI pixels to work with and information to work with, context. AI loves context, and so it's able to say, oh, okay, we're gonna do that and change everything else in the background. It is interesting that it added this third person here. That's great. I'm not worried about that at all. I kind of like this one the best of those two. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take this image, which the faces are from a real image, so they don't quite match the background, or the illustration type. I noticed their arms. They're obviously walking hand in hand. These ones are fine. Hands are a little backwards. That's all stuff you guys can fix. Whoever's looking at this. I'm just showing you how to keep the faces. So now what we're going to do, we're going to send this over to Inpainting again. We're going to leave the mask there. It doesn't show the mask. This is the little quirkiness with automatic 1111 dealing with the Inpainting. Maybe somebody's got a solution for this, but when you bring the new image over, the mask is actually still there. You just don't see it. You can remove it, reapply the mask, but I kind of want to keep it where it's at because I don't want to mess with the current mask. And so we're going to leave that, and then we're going to leave the mask blur there. We're going to change this to inpaint the masked area and only the mask. Okay. And we're going to leave the description the same, but what we're going to do is come down here, and I'm going to show you a technique to keep the face, but we're going to gradually convert it to something that looks like a digital illustration that matches the background. That's why we're going to keep this description here and the style. But we're going to come down here. We're going to reduce this down to, I think anywhere between 0.1 and 0.15. We're going to put 0.15. Nothing else is going to change. We're going to reduce this to 1 because we're not changing it enough that we need to see a couple different variations. All we're doing is we're going to gradually step the masked area into the illustration style. We're going to generate. Now you may not see much change, but there is a difference there. There is a slight difference in the style, but as you can see, we're still maintaining the same person. Okay. If I were to zoom on this, you'd see that it had a little bit more of an illustration, but now we're going to send that to the Inpaint. Oh, you see how it changed? Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. And now you can see that it has more of that illustration style. It's blending those edges in a little bit more. Same here with her. Okay. Leaving the rest of the image the same, but we're just gradually changing their faces so it looks more like the rest of the image. Okay, and you could probably do it one more. That one's not bad. I mean, that one's got pretty much the same look. So as the rest of the image, the same style. We could move that over one more time, but this is a technique that I've used before where I didn't want to lose the details, but I wanted to change the style. I know there's other ways to do this. I guess with ControlNet you can do reference. I guess they're using reference to pull style types, and I got to study up on that. But if you wanted to step this one more, you can see how it changed just a little bit, but you can see that the faces all still look the same, even though they now have that digital illustration or the storybook illustration style. We're going to run it one more time. Okay. And there we go. I mean, like I said, they still look the same, but they now have that storybook illustration look. It blended in the eye, or the edges a lot better. And you could take this into Photoshop, fix up things like this. The edge of his face right here looks like there's something in the background. You could fix that up so it gives a little more definition there. But outside of that, that's how you would do this, and give it more pixels to work with. So you start off by upscaling with 0 denoise strength, doubling up the res to do a latent upscale, and then taking that image and into Inpainting and start adjusting things and masking out the faces you want to keep, change the background, and then reverse the mask and do a gradual step with the denoise strength at a really low rate, and step it up so you get that style you want. So let's just take I know, like I said, it's going to look different, but let's take a look at the original image here. I'm going to bring this over. Yeah, we get a little bit of change, but not much, because here's what we're working with. We got some pretty pixelated stuff going on here. And I think it really did a good job maintaining the same structure. We could have worked a little bit more with her, but again, very pixelated. So I think if you work with this, you'll get the results you want. Turned out really well for me in the previous examples, and this one I think it turned out well. So yeah, we're going to go through one more upscale technique for adding extreme detail to an image. We're going to reset everything here. Now, I know a lot of people are utilizing the ControlNet tile, which we are going to use for the initial upscale because it does actually work really well. We're going to just generate a portrait of somebody here. We're going to do a middle-aged man, I think, and with beard. wise looking. Traces of gray in hair. Maybe he's a little scruffy looking. And wearing a leather jacket. I always like the textures that you get with leather jackets. And again, we're just going to, let's take this. I really want the image to look good, so I'm going to take this, copy that. We're going to go over to my prompt generator here, and we're going to throw this in here, have it give us a prompt. I am refining my prompt generator, but it still gives decent results here. This should give us some pretty good detail to start off with. Now, I like to, we are going to do the initial render at 30. This is portrait, so we're gonna give it a portrait size. I like to leave the base like either width or height at 768. Like if I'm doing landscape, I'll leave the height at 768 because I like working with the 2.1 models. Where we're going to move over to Illuminati diffusion. I love the styles and how well this model works with doing portraits. Actually, you know what? I'll leave that for another video. I've been wanting to work with the. There's another model that I'm thinking about working with here called what was it? I think it was Realistic Vision. There's a newer version of it that just came out. And then, oh, you know what? No, we're not going to work with Illuminati diffusion. We're going to actually work with the Dreamlike photoreal because I really want to get the detail out of this, and we're going to remove the styling here that indicates that it's a painting. We're going to do this. We're going to change this to photograph. We're looking for extreme detail and realism here. Okay. Make sure we're not. Yeah, I think that'll work. And then we're going to grab that custom negative prompt that it created. Drop that in there. Get a couple different variations, and I think I'm going to do restore faces on this. This model does really well with faces, so we'll just leave it at that and just generate an there. A couple images. The reason I'm doing the beard, it really does, and anything with that kind of detail, especially like the leather, the clothing, you're gonna, when upscaling, this will help you get a really good idea if the upscaling is working. Okay. That's not a bad image. Definitely not the most handsome of guys. I like this one here. There's going to be some detail in the zipper and the collar that I like. The beard shows a lot of detail, and we're going to get some detail on the face. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to send this over to Inpainting. We're going to do the tile upscale using ControlNet first. Now I'm still learning some basic stuff how to use this, but in this particular instance, it'll be the first step in doing the upscale. We're going to change the denoise strength down to 0.3. I think you can, it really depends on what you're doing, but anywhere between 0.3, 0.4 tends to give pretty good results. Okay, sampling steps. And the sampling method, definitely change this over to the DPM++ SD Keras. We're going to increase the sampling steps for this initial render up to 40. It definitely helps with being able to pull out some of the detail. Now we're going to go down to ControlNet, and we're going to enable this. Pixel perfect. We're going to grab the tile. tile resample. Come up here and we're going to use, now in order to use the tile, and this may not be a problem for anybody here, I need to go back and check, but they don't have the SD2.1 version of the tile, I don't think. I'd have to go back and look, maybe they've updated it. So you have to make sure that you're using a 1.5 model in order for this to work. So we need to go up and make sure that we are on a 1.5 model. So for this, we are going to switch over to, let's see, Realism Engine. I think the Photoreal 2.0 is a 2.1 based model, and the ControlNet stuff won't work with that. I mean, it'll render something out, but it doesn't actually do anything with it. So we're gonna try, I want to say, and it actually errors out if it's not the right one. So we're just gonna do the Realism Engine version 1.0, and then I think that's it. Let's make sure we got everything else we don't have to do anymore. I usually switch this over to just resize. With Pixel Perfect, I don't think it's necessary. Call it habit. Okay. Downsampling. So yeah, so we're going to switch this to 2. And you'll see the difference here. We'll show you the difference once it gets done. Okay. And that's it. So we're going to go ahead and generate. Give it a second to load the tile model, and then, oh, yeah, so that model, this one is a 2.1 model too. Let's see, what do we got here? Let me go back to the Photoreal. Oh, I want to see, sorry, I've used that one before to do this. This runtime error, mat1 and mat2 shapes cannot be multiplied, is an error indicating that the model you've selected in ControlNet does not work with the model you have selected up here in the stable diffusion checkpoints. It's just a difference in the models. Okay, so we get 2 images. One is the downsampled version, one is the upscaled version. Okay, so we come over here, let's open this up, and as you can see, this one is the low res one, and if we switch over, let's see. Yeah, no, we're not getting a difference there. Something did not change. Oh, you know what? I think what it is, it's resampling, but we need to actually do the res. So it's like a latent upscale. It'll upscale to this, but it resamples it and utilizes the, you know, this doesn't make sense. The reason why is because typically with the tiling, what you'll see, oh no, that's the, I think that's the ultimate SD upscale. It does it one tile at a time. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. We're going to generate on that again. Let's working on that. I want to check one other thing. Okay, here we go. So doing these kinds of upscales are going to take more time because of what you're doing. It's resampling everything. We're going to pause the video until it gets done here. Okay, so it's finished. We're going to start with this one right here. This is the original or downsampled version. And this is the upscaled version. So I don't know if you saw it. It's definitely not as much detail there. We're getting a lot more detail in the beard, more detail in the jacket and his skin. So again, kind of shifting between the two. Definitely a lot sharper. Okay. Now what we're going to do with this, we're going to take this one here. Let me make sure I get the right one. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to send this one over to the now here's the thing, this is the point where you'd want to adjust stuff. If you see anything wrong with the image, this is where you'd want to inpaint it, okay, to get different results. But I really like the way this looks. I don't think we need to adjust anything. His eyes look great, beard and everything, hair and jacket look great. So we're going to send this over to image. Okay, Now what we're going to do, we're going to switch off ControlNet. Now I know a lot of people reuse the ControlNet tile resample. It does take forever. And what I've found is it does add detail, but I think it adds, at least in the examples that people, the videos I've watched, is it'll start to add things you don't want there, like little micro faces and things that are obviously part of the description, but you end up getting that there. And I know that's a side effect of having the denoise strength turned up too high, but this is why we're going to switch over to something else. So now that we have a lot of pixels to work with, when you get a high-res image like this, you can actually utilize the other upscaling methods, the tile diffusion and tile VAE, and use the higher denoise strength upwards of 0.3 to 0.4 to get the details without changing the image, or without changing the overall image. So let's, like I said, we're going to come down here, shut that off. We're done with ControlNet for right now. We're going to go to the tiled diffusion, enable that. We're going to use the 4x ultra sharp upscaler. Okay. And then we're going to turn on the tiled VAE. And for the initial render, I just want to see what it'll do at 0.4. It depends on the image. Sometimes you do get little weird artifacts, but I think overall my experience with this has been pretty good. So, and all we're doing is we're just doubling. We're just going to scale it up two more, double the size again. Okay. This will give us a nice high res picture. Won't be 4K or 8K yet, which we can do, but that takes a lot of time because we're working a much higher resolution. But we're just going to stick with doubling up the initial. So we're going to be going to, I think it's like 3072 by, what is that? Whatever 1920 is. My brain's not working on math right now. Okay, so we're just going to do that. Hit generate. And again, this is going to take a little while. We'll let it set itself up so you can see kind of the initial time frame that it shows. And I'll pause it and we'll come back. So just give it a few minutes here. Or not a few minutes, just a minute or a few seconds to get set up here. And we can bring up the console here. You can see where it's at. Multi-diffusion sampling. You can see that it's doing the initial grabbing, and you can see the number over here and total progress. So it's gradually getting to where it'll start displaying in the web. This does take a little while. We're taking this image and we're adding a lot of detail to it. Let me see. We're still using the photoreal, Dreamlike photoreal. Good. Okay. So, all right. There it goes. Okay. So it's not going to take 15 minutes. We're probably looking at 4 to 5 minutes. This initial estimate is always inaccurate. Okay. I'll pause the video and we'll come back after it's done. Something I thought might be kind of fun to do here while we're waiting for this to render out. I'm actually seeing, we'll let it finish here, but I'm already seeing that it's doing things with the image I don't really want. And that's just an effect of the 0.4. We'll probably bring this down to 0.3. When working with gradients, backgrounds that are out of focus, things like that, you have to find a balance on the denoise strength to retain that defocus look. But we're going to start getting some noise in the face too that I don't think I really want. It's like it's over baking it or over generating it. So. But while we're waiting for that, I kind of wanted to come over here and show you a couple things that we can do with my prompt generator. I have been working on refining it a little bit, but overall, it still stays the same. It'll give you a positive prompt, a negative prompt that is customized to the positive prompt. And I find the AI works really well. I've had some people come back saying, are any of these words actual like keywords or tokens in the AI itself? And I don't know. You know, all I know is that when it generates this and generates a custom prompt, I get beautiful images. And you know, obviously I could go and study that. And I did one of the refinements I did on my prompt generators. I added a grouping of common keywords that people use in their prompts. I used a ChatGPT to analyze a whole bunch of prompts from a website and asking it to find the common like words and stuff like that. But so let's again, I want to just show a few things here. Some cool things you can do with this. So obviously generating a basic prompt is pretty easy. Let's say I want a prompt. Let's see. Prompt for a beautiful castle set on a cliff. Tall cliff in a large fantasy forest. We want it at sunset with storm clouds and let's say we want rocky mountains. All I'm doing is I'm just throwing out words that are coming to my mind, what I might want to see in the image. And I want it to be vivid colors and make it a digital illustration. Okay. And I'm going to let the AI, you know, really kind of chew on that and come up with something better. So hopefully if OpenAI, yeah, it looks like OpenAI's were. Yesterday morning, OpenAI wasn't working. Like the 4.0 model was actually down. So again, it's going to create the positive prompt. I have it set to always put best quality masterpiece detailed at the beginning, so you don't have to worry about 8K. It always seems to help with it. And then it fills in digital illustration of a magic castle, or majestic castle perched on a towering cliff. I mean, I have it set to use words and things that I would never even think of. And I know the Stable Diffusion AIs understand these words. Nestled in the heart of a vast fantasy forest, painted against the backdrop of a breathtaking sunset, enveloping storm clouds, robust rocky mountains, colors dancing between the cool shade of the forest and the warm hues of the sunset. So this should be a pretty interesting picture. We're going to get kind of a dual tone. Oh yeah, so we're still working on this. So yeah, let's take a look at this here. So it did add detail, but look at what it's doing to the background, which is supposed to be out of focus. It's over baking it. So what we're going to do, we're going to come down here. We're going to drop this down to 0.3 and re-render that. Again, you know, and I think most other YouTubers will say the same thing. You have to experiment to find a balance in getting that detail. So we'll let that go and render that out. It's going to take a little bit. So anyway, so it gives you the positive prompt, negative prompt, and it's interesting. It gave me 8 names this time, but I have it set to give some art names if you want to name your art. Now here's some interesting things we can do. Let's say we're working with wanting to generate multiple prompts. Somebody was asking about doing batch prompting. So I want a series of prompts. Maybe around this same prompt, we're going to do this. We're going to say 5 prompts for 5 different fantasy castles set in 5 different scenes. Each prompt should give a different lighting style, art style, and evoke a different emotion. So we're going to get rid of the first part of this, and yeah, we're just going to get rid of that. So we're going to let the AI figure that out. And I love this. This is fun to do because this is how I kind of do some inspiration on this. So it's going to generate a list of 5 prompts based around that same theme, but I'm giving it leeway to create different styles with it, different lighting, and evoke different emotions. And as you read through this, you're going to see it's very creative. It's in picking like the different art styles, and you'll see it pick different lighting and coloring styles. Like dreamlike atmosphere bathed in golden hour sunlight, desolate atmosphere, casting dramatic shadows, flickering torchlight. That first one actually looks pretty cool. Imposing fortress amidst a stark snowy landscape. So yeah, you get these 5 prompts. It didn't do a negative prompt. I didn't specify that. Typically when you ask it to generate multiple prompts like this, at least with this updated version of my prompt generator, it doesn't do the negative prompt. But you could specify up here, also include 1 negative prompt at the end, and it'll give you that negative prompt at the end. Okay. See where we're at here. We're at 54%. While we're waiting for that here, another thing you can do is, so when working with the regional prompter, this is kind of a fun one. And where you're kind of controlling different areas of the scene using regional prompter, you designate. So let's say we're working with 4 different regions. Okay, so which means you would need a primary prompt that discusses or describes the overall scene, and then you'd need 4 additional prompts after that describing what's in each of the different regions of the in the template for the regional prompter. So what we want to do is I want 5 prompts for. So we're just saying I want 5. I want a list of 5 prompts. The prompts. The first prompt describes the basic scene of a let's see, we're gonna work with parallel. So in the thing it'll be vertical regions. So we're gonna split from left to right the scene into 4 different regions. So we're gonna do a basic scene of a futuristic city street with a very dark fill. The second prompt, and this is where you describe each prompt. So the second prompt will be a 1-line description of what do we want on the left side? Let's say a coffee shop. Third prompt should be a 1-line description of the side of a sidewalk with people. Third prompt, let's see, 5 prompts. The second prompt, third, no, we're on the fourth. Fourth prompt should be for the city street with cars. And the fifth prompt should be a 1-line description for a city office building. It's done rendering the thing. We're going to let that generate that. We're going to go back to the picture. That looks much better. Oh my gosh. So definitely added a lot of detail into here, into the beard. And you look at the zipper, you can see the zipper texture in the leather. It's a little out of focus because that's just the way the image, because the image was focused on his eyes and face. Let me go and grab the actual image here because, oh, you know, we can zoom in right here. So let's go in here. Something else I've noticed, I switched over to using PNGs instead of JPEGs. And I think that actually helps in getting the detail. So you can see individual hairs. And just it pulls out so much detail in this. We're seeing pores in the skin. Getting a little bit of painted effect here. We're zoomed in quite a bit on this, but this is amazing detail. You get, you know, the creasing in the skin, the details in the crow's feet and the around the edges of the eyes. Beautiful image. This gives a lot of great detail doing it this method. Now this is, again, this is I think this image is now would be considered 4K. Now you can take this into extras and upscale from there if you want to. The problem with that is that I've never had good luck with extras and trying to upscale. It always seems to wash out the like hair and stuff like that. And so I mean, we can try it and see. Let's throw this over here. We're going to just do a 2x upscale. We're going to select the 4x ultra sharp and just see what it does. And this may take a second here. Let's see what this came up with. Yeah, the future had arrived. So yeah, it's not. This is the refined version of my prompt generator. I'm gonna have to go back because it should have did a standard prompt here, and then these are all pretty good. We'll see about that. I'm not gonna render that out, but you get an idea. You can utilize it to do some really cool stuff and generating multiple prompts, customized for different areas. So typically I would word it different in the description up here. We are upscaling a pretty large image already, so doing the extras upscale, though it is quick, does take a little while still. I think it's still gearing up here. So let's see what it did. Let's bring this up. It's a very large image. Let's go ahead and blow this up and see. It may have, because it was already a pretty detailed image, it may have retained it. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's okay. Obviously, it's a really large image, so we're zoomed in on it pretty far. But what I'm seeing is that, yeah, I don't know, I did okay. I feel like it retained the detail. Yeah, you don't want to move over to extras unless you already have a high-res image. This isn't bad. I think we're still losing, or ended up getting some blurring effect on it. Yeah, and this is the other problem. You see this right here. This may be from the original image. You see how we're losing that. I don't know what happened there. But for some reason it changed where that is. It's hard to see from here where it's at. I mean, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, you could take that image, totally print it, and it would look great. But if you wanted to get the detail again, you would actually come back here again using tiled diffusion, tiled VAE. And you would actually reduce this down even more, probably to 0.1 to 0.15, and you'd send this back over to the one you just did, send it over to the image to image. Give it a second to pull that over. You'll see how the res changed, 3072 by 3840. And you would actually just rerun this again at the lower denoise strength. That way, you could probably do it at 0.2 to 0.3 too, and get even more detail. It will take a while to render. I mean, we're talking probably 15 minutes or so at least. But this would actually add more detail. You get your 8K image. A lot of people are all about the control net tile. Again, I have not figured out how to successfully use the tile to get up to 8K without it modifying the smaller areas and adding in things I don't want, like small micro people. So yeah, give it a try. And the prompt generator I have up on Etsy is the first version, and it works flawlessly with this. This is one I'm working on right now that is I'm trying to adjust to allow for different things, so don't worry about what it's showing here. The prompt generator I have on Etsy, people love it, and it works wonderful in being able to generate very detailed scenes and getting things like this, descriptions like this, that end up giving you images that are just mind-blowing. So check the description. I have all the links there for my free resources, for my Etsy page, as well as a couple other things. My Discord server, if you want to come join us and discuss a lot of these things. Would love to hear from everybody. And thanks for joining me today.